Hey, good afternoon. At this time, I'd like to call to order Muskegon County Community Development Strategic Plan Committee. It is 3:36, March 10th, 2022. Roll call.
Commissioner Sear.
Here.
Commissioner Hovey-Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Laring.
Here.
Commissioner Nash.
Here.
Commissioner Pego.
Here.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda this afternoon, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
You have the support and a motion to, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, moving right along. Approval of the minutes of February 10th, 2022. Approval of the- okay.
Support.
We have support, motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that moving right approval of the minutes of February 10th. Public comment on an agenda item. Persons may address the board during the time set aside for public comment or at any time by suspension of all of the rules. All persons must address the board and state their names. For the record, comments shall be limited to 2 minutes for each participant unless time is extended prior to the public comment period by a vote of the majority of the board. Any public comment at this time? So, okay. No. Nothing?
Email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next is regarding item number 6, public hearing regarding the Pioneer Bathhouse grant application.
Make a motion that we open the public hearing for Pioneer Bathhouse grant application.
Support.
Support. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Opposed.
We have one. Okay. So do we need to talk about any questions,
Yes.
comments, or concerns at this time?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a required public hearing for the grant application. With your approval, we will make to the DNR Trust Fund grant for partial funding for the Pioneer Park Bathhouse. Through the course of our research into this grant, we found that the grant only can provide for development type projects, not acquisition projects. It can only provide $300,000 of grant funding, potential grant funding. So if you would be able to pull up the motion, Kathy, that would be really beneficial. But what it comes down to, Commissioners, is that we originally were going for a 30% match and 70% funded by the trust fund grant, but we can't do that. So we switched it around for a 70% match by the county and 30% of that funding would come from the trust fund grant. The 70% equates to about $500,000. And with the maybe more than that, actually more than that, probably about 520. And with the additional $300,000 that could potentially be provided by the grant, it would bring us to about $820,000 for the bathhouse. That would complete construction of the bathhouse and for enlargement of the septic field and the septic tank to, in the future, be able to accommodate campsites and RVs. We weren't expecting this, honestly, but when we found that we'd have to switch it from 70 to 30, it was a concern, of course. There is funding available in the parks reserves, but it would pretty much exhaust the funding in the parks reserves. And alternatively, it could potentially be funded through ARPA funds that the county received. So, we'd like to apply for the grant, but it's entirely up to the county board. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. Yes,
Commissioner Nash.
What kind of financial impact could this have for the RV community from Muskegon County?
If there were sewers at the campsites, all of the campsites, or even any really of the campsites at Pioneer Park, it could have an impact. We'd be able to charge more per campsite. It would make the RV campers a lot more apt to reserve in our park as opposed to a private park or a park that would have sewer hookups. Minor Park, for instance, has sewer hookups. So a lot of RVers like to go to Minor because they can.
So is there a way you can put a number to the amount of revenue that could be drawn in, like a projected number of that revenue that could be brought in if that was added?
I think there would be a way to do that. Yeah, it would
Did you
be
do that
large.
before full board?
You can certainly give it a shot.
I know you reported last time, Bob, about, Pioneer Park has been booked way in advance. Is that kind of anticipated this year too? So,
Yes, I talked to the park staff yesterday, and I think they said July is sold out for the most part. The weekends get sold out very quickly, of course. And then, people extend their stays and stay during the week. Typically, the busiest months are July and August before the schools go back. And, we do see some traffic coming in June, mid-June, when the weather warms up.
Commissioner Scully, you have a question?
Bob, so I'm not gonna camper, but if they can hook up, then they don't have to use their own holding tanks, right?
Correct.
Okay, so they don't have to pay, they potentially wouldn't have to pay to dump their own tanks someplace.
Correct.
So it's worth more.
It is.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are a number of private campgrounds that have those hookups, and they charge substantially more. Or no, than that.
Mr. Lawyer.
So where am I thinking wrong on this? The park is sold out in advance. We don't have a problem with vacancies. We're booked solid throughout the summer months.
I wouldn't say solid, but the
Pretty
month
darn
of July
close to
the month of July is booked up pretty good.
Right. So I'm assuming June.
June, there are availabilities, yeah, and there's scattered availabilities.
Historically, the park is pretty full.
Mhm.
All right, so we're talking about draining our funding that we have at the parks to speculate that we'll get a grant for a bathroom that we voted down last year, even for the design costs. I don't understand where's the payoff of $510,000. What's the payoff of the added cost of the few RVs that are just going to take a spot from somebody else because the sites are already full? So it's not like you've got empty sites. So you charge double the cost for a sewer hookup. What's the payoff of $510,000? And how many years is that going to take to pay that off from sites that are already full?
I understand, Commissioner. The most frequent issue that campers have there is the lack of bathhouse facilities. We have one main bathhouse that's fine. We have another two smaller bathhouses. One has 4 showers in it. The other has 2. One, 2 men, 2 women, and 1 man, 1 woman. But they're older. They're in disrepair. I mean, they work, but they're old buildings.
Yeah, I've seen them. I'm not done. So can I finish? My point is, if it's so disgusting and that people are complaining, but they're reserving, filling the campground up in advance already, I'm assuming these are returned people. They're not so turned off by this facility that they're not coming back. They're already reserved out in advance. And switching this grant around makes it, by paying, if we're going to pay 62% of that, the cost makes us more advantage that will approve our grant request, but I don't see the math paying out. I mean, and the income to the county by bringing tourists in, they're already here. So what we're looking at of these campgrounds is the money that they spend in the county by going out on the town, and that's not going to increase because the sites are already full. And they're not complaining to the extent where we have a half-empty campground and it requires us to completely, I mean, if you were adding on 100 sites to this, I can see with this bathroom, that would make sense financially. I mean, we're gonna bring in 100 new campers, but we're kind of landlocked. We're not creating 100 new campsites out of this deal.
Well, I would say that it would provide better accommodations for the campers.
Mark, did you have
Yeah,
something to add?
if I can answer clarification on this. So last time we went for a project to the board, we were paying it out of our own account. And we were going to either bond that or take a small loan to help pay that back. So this motion is truly for the bathhouse.
Okay.
Adding on a little bit larger septic tank allows us the future to run lines. So if you have 100 sites, you add $20 per site, right? Because right now they're like $30, $32, you can actually pay $50 or rather than 50 per site. So then that's 2,000. If you look at 90 days, you're up to $240,000 you made off of those sites.
In 1 year.
Going there.
And so how many sites are we gonna add sewer to with this additional?
No, all this does is create the septic tank larger. More grants will come for us to apply to actually run sewer. But I guess the main point is, even if we left the tank itself as small as it is, and not encourage other septic, or other campers to connect through this, we still need a bathhouse.
Right.
So the bulk of this money is for the bathhouse and not to expand the sewer tank in the ground.
Commissioner, I'll be right here.
Yes, yeah, and I don't even see anything in this document that talks about sewer. It just talks about, and the bathhouse, we all saw it, it was terrible. It needs to be replaced.
The smaller ones,
What?
the smaller bath.
The smaller one,
Yes.
yeah, right. I don't know if you saw the email that we got from
I did.
Judy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. She complains about terrible maintenance. Would you agree that it needs to be improved, and what are we gonna do about the maintenance? I know this is tangential, but
Well,
it's about Pioneer Park, so.
Well, I brought along some documents if you'd like to see them. It just shows some of the improvements, capital improvements and expenditures that we made for the parks.
What about maintenance logs?
Well, what I was building towards, and this is for another day, but I know in Ottawa County, they have Friends of the Parks. And they raise money and they help with improvements. And I think we might want to consider that because I think we have a number of parks that need to be addressed. And you know, with some dedicated volunteers, I think that would be a good idea.
we did something very similar to that last year, and picked up 300, 400 pounds with a volunteer group
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
were out there. Commissioner Sear, you had a question or a comment?
So what is the actual cost on the bathhouse? Do we have that still? I don't recall what it was.
$810,200.
And what is the footprint that that bathhouse will cover? Can you tell me that?
I do not have that. image.
10 by 20.
Oh, it's larger than that. I believe it has 5 shower stalls and then men's and women's bathrooms that can be sectioned off and cleaned independently. There's also a family like shower area. And the family area is big enough for handicapped accessibility. Actually, they're all handicapped accessible.
Okay.
No, I have a question.
Commissioner Nash.
Well, the reason I like this idea, is, you know, especially with the numbers, and that's what I was looking for. If we're making over 200,000 in 1 year, in 3 years, we made back more than enough money. I'm also looking at the fact that there's periods of time where this may not be full, where this may not be regularly attended. But with these improvements, it can encourage people to attend more often year round if they can't get that spot. So I look at, okay, it's full, but now we got a waiting list. You know, now we got people trying to fill in spots where they don't normally fill in at. So, and that could be even more money that we bring in. So I just think it's a plus. It improves the tourism services for the people that are coming and doing the touring. And then we're getting back our revenue over a period of time, and then it becomes profit over your time. So
If I can add one thing, commissioners, we do have a season there, so, we have to shut down the water at the parks at the end of September. We typically begin doing that because it'll simply freeze. So, our season is limited in that respect. I suppose there would be ways around it, but I think it could help extend our season through September because it's a pretty light month until the last week of September when we have a fall festival type event out there.
Commissioner Fagan.
Yeah, so I think I misunderstood what Mark said about the expansion of sewers and increasing the fee to approximately $50. Can you repeat that? Because I think I either misunderstood or you
Yeah.
were relaying exactly.
I just took 100 sites and say you increase the fee per night, $20.
So you're increasing the fee before there's extensions.
No,
Or
after it's all
hookups.
done. No, no one would pay for it.
Well, that's what I was trying to understand. So this plan doesn't even include that at this point.
No, all this
Correct.
plan does is to septic, if you dig up the
Right,
septic.
so we're jumping the
tank,
gun, assuming we might have an extra additional $210,000 because that hasn't even, that's a separate grant, correct? To expand the sewers?
to expand this, sir, but if you're replacing a septic tank now, you might as well make it a little bit bigger for the expansion.
I
in the future.
understand.
Okay.
But if you expand the sewer, doesn't automatically mean you're gonna have the extensions to hook up.
Correct.
Okay, so that was something that wasn't portrayed. They're, kind of assuming that this extra $210,000 is gonna automatically happen, but that's not in the plan.
that has nothing to do.
Okay,
It's a separate, but
That's-
long-term planning, yes. we
well, I
need to plan for it.
understand, but you made it allude to that was gonna be included. So I think there was just a little bit of a break.
So just a comment, obviously appreciate this. We've been knocked as a county to not take care of the maintenance, and it sounds like now we want to put a plan together. That, I don't know who had their hands up first. Mr. Hughes.
Now, this is something that we've been kicking down the road for a couple of years. So it's not like this is something that, we haven't looked at before, and we definitely do need it. And I just wondered, have you put anything in savings for this and planning ahead for this?
Yes, as I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but in the park reserve, there's $540,000.
Okay, and that's
So-
what you had this plan for, or have you been?
Well, we
everything is
thought
in
the
there?
grant was the other way around,
Okay.
and we would only use $240, I think,
Okay,
$1,000.
and I also see on here, it says new larger ADA restroom. Is the restroom an ADA accessible now?
The large bathhouse is.
But we're not talking about the large bathhouse on this, are we?
This would be a new bathhouse that would. be-
No, the existing one, Bob, is that small one. It is not really,
It needs to be.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'm
Yes,
saying the
there's
ones,
two smaller ones
and
that
those
are
are the ones
not.
we're talking about right now. We're here, right? Or are we talking about the big one?
I don't understand your question. Actually, one more time.
so the Bob, there's two small ones that we want to tear down and put
Yes.
this big one into it. The
Yes.
little ones are not
Correct.
handicap
The small ones
accessible.
are.
This
Okay.
one would.
So I guess I didn't understand this. Now I'm getting a better picture.
Okay.
So what you're saying is you're gonna tear down the two little ones and replace it with this one you're asking us to
Yes,
approve.
correct.
Bigger,
That changes it in my mind a little bit too.
bigger, nicer.
Commissioner Stolnik.
No, I just wanted to say, one of the things about this park and the whole park, the park system, it's an enterprise fund. So that means it runs like a business. It's not funded out of our general fund. And having been a business owner in my life, I don't wait until the trucks break down and they're 20 years old and replace them. And I don't not paint the building because it still works.
But you anticipate that,
It's
correct?
time to upgrade some of this equipment in this park, and I don't care if people are still going there because we got a monopoly on it. It's just time to be, in fairness, it's being paid for by the users of the park. And this makes perfect sense to me. I don't know if $50 sounds like a lot for campsite, but I don't camp, so I don't know.
For an RV.
If I could also add, commissioners, we realize that that painting needs to be done and visually things need to be done at the park. A lot of the items that you'll see in that list are for behind the scenes types of repairs. Electrical upgrades, for instance, I think out at Pioneer, it was either $131,000 or $191,000 worth of electrical upgrades there since 2018. Last year at Minor Park, I think it was a $40,000 electrical panel and some electrical wiring that needed to be done there. So, you know, some of the buildings need paint and we can get that done.
Mr. Chair, yes, I just wanted to say, if I owned a campground that was a franchise like Jellystone, one of those,
Could you talk louder?
It doesn't talk.
if I had a campground and it was a franchise, the franchise owner would demand these repairs, they would pull my franchise,
Just like hotels.
just like hotels. So it just makes sense to me. I mean, it's not coming out of the general fund, it's for the benefit of the visitors here. They have a better impression of Muskegon County. In the end, it's not gonna cost us anything, really. So anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, Commissioner Lang.
So it will cost us something because we're draining the park reserve. There's no cost to benefit for this because the park is already close to full. It's not going to gain more residents. The people keep coming back year after year. Secondly, question, the last year you gave us a budget of $110,000 for just the design. That didn't, for just the design. Does this include that cost for the design, or is that going to be an additional $110,000?
That includes the cost. The cost is wrapped into this. We would use the plans, the former plans.
But we didn't agree to the plans. We never went out for design.
The plans were based on a state park.
Yes, but to hire that contractor was $110,000 to do a design out at that site. There was still an additional, the total cost of it, I guess it was 2 years ago, was $900,000. So I'm assuming and you brought before the board the $110,000 design cost, and then there was a estimated cost of construction of $800,000. And so we're getting close to $1 million. You're talking about designing an oversized sewer, or you don't even know how many you're going to hook up, but you're going to create a sewer, a septic and drain field, and you don't know how many campsites. This will be very specific even in the permit process as to, I mean, there's not a design. Are you going to hook up every site to sewer? I mean, that'll be part of the plan with your septic permit. You can't just throw a wag at it. They're going to want to know the flow coming into that septic field. And it seems a little bit and I don't even know how the sewer to these campsites got introduced into this conversation, because it's not even part of the motion, but somehow that got introduced to it, that we're going to build a bigger septic tank to accommodate this. But as it stands right now, without this additional sewer space, the county's not going to gain any. It's not like people are leaving our park. I've seen some of the pictures of these sites. We toured them last year. They are in a bit of disrepair, and a lot of these complaints that people have made, probably the countertops out there, I remember distinctly in that larger bathhouse, need to be tore out and repaired. It seems like some of this park reserve money would be better suited to retrofit some of the existing facilities instead of tearing them down and building them. I mean, the structures were fine on these buildings. It was just some of the internal pieces needed new fixturing and new countertops.
Let's wait.
Any other, do we need a
We need to close the hearing.
closer?
Basically.
I make a motion to close the public hearing. It's not a public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good discussion. Thank you for the information and the backup. Next item for consideration, CDSP 22/3 -08, move to reclassify the CDB sales executive 25-hour-a-week position X21-202 to a full-time position at paid table grade NX 00196 and to advertise for the position immediately. Funding for this position is allocated through the CDB budget and is partially budget, and the budget will be adjusted to fill the full-time position. The position may be salaried or a base bonus plan, both with benefits.
So moved.
Full support? Support, yeah. Commissioner Wilkins. All right, any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, sir.
Marcia.
Marcia, yeah.
Go ahead.
This is a little bit off a topic with this, but how many counties are actually supporting the CVB? I mean, I don't know why that's necessarily a county function.
Some of them are, Bob, do you have those numbers?
Yeah, there are 8 counties in Michigan that have county operated CVBs.
Who operates most of them?
They are independent 501c6s usually that are funded by a hotel assessment. Here in Muskegon County, we have a hotel tax, and the other 7 counties have hotel taxes that are used to fund the CVB and marketing and tourism, sales and destination development.
And what do we do with that hotel assessment,
The assessment or the tax?
the tax?
The tax goes to fund the CVB to market our area, to operate tourism marketing efforts and sales efforts.
So we're one of 7 counties doing this
Yes.
out of 83.
Mhm.
And this is a significant portion of our management of the county resources is talking about convention and bureau, visitor bureau stuff. It puts us in the minority of counties in the state of Michigan. And I don't necessarily agree that we should be in that position, but that hotel tax, you're calling that's what we refer to here as the bed tax.
It has a variety of names, yeah. You can
So
call it that.
I thought the bed tax was being used to pay off the convention center.
A portion of it is,
Room tax.
there is also a PA 59 assessment district laid on top of the tax for the downtown hotels. So there are 2 sources of funding to pay off the bond issue for the convention center. A PA 59 hotel assessment in the city of Muskegon and a portion of the county accommodations tax.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, go ahead.
Bob, does portions of that, both of those taxes come to the CVB?
The PA 59 does not. The tax, the accommodations tax is collected by the county.
Okay.
And if a county has a hotel accommodations tax, it is required to go towards tourism development and marketing sales. It can't be used for other things,
But you're asking to use it for,
for a sales position,
and what are they gonna sell?
the convention center.
And no
And-
hotel rooms?
No, they will sell hotel rooms to fill the convention, that will use the convention center.
Yeah, Commissioner Nash, I have a question.
No, I was just gonna expound. I mean, this is nothing new. We've been doing this for years. And basically, all you're changing is from a part-time to a full-time. Am I correct?
Yes,
So it's not something new or brand new. We've been doing this for years. You know, these taxes and things have been in place all this time, but
So
I think you want to do that because it'll be more effective
yes.
with you and how you're working things currently anyway. So
And we had a salesperson here until August of 2020 because there were no meetings or events happening.
right.
Because of the limits on capacity limits on gatherings and meetings.
And I've also seen that position evolve in different times in different ways. So for a number of years, it has changed back and forth into different things. And I guess right now we're just in need of another change.
So Mr. Lukens also added this position from part-time to full-time to consider a bonus to bring in more revenue. That would be something that we could look at. So the more they bring in, that would get them into, to help offset the cost of that particular individual.
Yes, it would be a base and bonus.
Commissioner Bago, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, is this the same, was this presented to us before
It was
and we turned it down?
the full-time position, yes. The part-time position is funded currently.
Okay, but you can't get anyone to fill that position.
We couldn't at the time. We could try again.
Well, I mean, I agree that I think we need to be, to market this in order to make it successful. But my question is it just our responsibility?
No.
Or what about the owner of the convention center? What about the city? Why is it just us?
It isn't. The operators of the convention center have a sales person that works on this, a director of sales that works not only to fill the convention center, but mainly to fill hotel rooms. That's the objective, to fill the hotel rooms, to collect the accommodations tax and the hotel assessments, to not only pay off our convention center, but to provide other marketing opportunities for the county of Muskegon.
Commissioner
But you
Bago.
feel there's enough work for 2 full-time?
One full-time for the CVB. The convention center has a salesperson.
Oh, so this is for the whole county and all the hotels and
It's for
motels?
group tour,
Yeah, okay.
sports,
I get it.
not only the convention center, but the bulk of the work will be for the convention center.
Commissioner Bago, you have that question?
I'll wait until new
Okay.
business. Thank you.
Commissioner Long.
So just so I understand this right, this position is to fill, it says right here, it's to bring in convention center clients.
Yes,
A convention center that we paid we bonded, the county bonded, that belongs to the city, that the Marriott's supposed to manage, but yet we're gonna have a full-time employee trying to solicit customers to use something that we don't own. Correct me where I'm wrong. We don't own.
The city, just one quick thing, the city bonded it.
City bonded it.
yes.
What did we do?
We provided the mechanism for the PA 59 to pay for it, which comes through, it comes through the county, but not his office, and the other accommodation tax. So the dollars go through the county. They took the bond. Is a three-way partnership.
So
We're paying.
we own the bond.
They own the bond. They bonded it. We set up the mechanism to make the bond payments through the accommodation taxes.
What happens if we don't make enough accommodations tax to pay the bond?
And that's where we have to get together with the city and figure out a plan.
How
right?
many years
Make
was that
happen.
for?
So what
30.
happens if they walk away? We own the convention center, or we just pay the bill?
In 30 years, it'd be just like South Campus. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of repairs that need to be done unless they keep it up like Baker keeps theirs up. So the responsibility of keeping it is the city's.
So, all right, so we didn't bond it. That's the one correction to my comment.
Yeah.
It's a convention center. It's a county employee.
It would be-
A county employee is going to be marketing a convention center that we don't own, in the city of Muskegon owns, for a convention owner that's a private entity.
Beautiful, isn't it? And
What are we doing in this business? This does not feel like the business of government. This feels like we're in positions trying to favor a developer in the city. This isn't county business.
Well, the county made a decision along with the city and the hotel operator to join together to develop a convention center, to make Muskegon County more of a year-round destination. And
Correct me if I'm wrong. What we agreed to apparently was just to collect the bed taxes to pay for this. And now the county residents out in Cloverville or wherever, their tax dollars are paying for this employee to market for the convention center. That's where I see the duplicity of this. That I don't think that the people of Muskegon County, the greater part of Muskegon County, necessarily want their property taxes paying for a convention center they're never gonna use.
So
That's not-
This is an enterprise fund, Commissioner. So the taxes that are collected are from people that stay in the hotels.
But that's not what's gonna pay this employee,
Yes,
Yes, it is.
yes, it is.
except that there was no bed taxes last year.
No, we've
There
been
were
there.
bed taxes. Last year. it was
Yeah,
actually
all right,
a good year.
very, we talked about this, very reduced numbers for 2020 and 2021.
2020. 2021 was our best year ever.
Yeah,
We collected over $1.25 million last year.
So we're gonna be able to make our payment on the convention center this year,
Yes, we did.
but not necessarily this employee.
I don't understand that. We can pay the employee, yes. Yes, we can.
Well, it's not budgeted. That's my thing about
It's
this.
partially budgeted. We do have a budget in there for a part-time employee
It's
over 20, well, 25.
non-budgeted, yes. Partially budgeted, no.
That's it.
but Bob, you could also go back to that group and request the increase to meet that need. Couldn't
The,
What group?
the ATEC group, as far as,
No hotel.
right, the amount that's being paid right now,
Would it be
could be
59?
partially increased.
for the accommodations tax, that cannot be increased. It's at the maximum 5%. The PA 59 hotel assessment can go up to 5%. And currently it's at 4%.
Right, but the
hotel-
funding that's coming for this position is coming through the ATEC, correct?
Yes, correct.
So it could be increased somewhat to take care of the difference, correct?
The funding for the position?
Yes.
Yes.
That's all.
Commissioner Pego.
So that's what I noticed to it, says it's not budgeted, and so you're saying, okay, this is a part-time position right now, going to a full-time position. Who is going to, being paid from the county, the Muskegon County employee, correct,
Mhm.
with benefits?
Yes. If they choose.
So those are all things that are underneath the purview of the county. Is the permanent or a part or a temporary position, or
The 25-hour position,
this, you're changing it to a full-time position, is
Right,
it temporary or permanent?
permanent.
A permanent position. And so all of the benefits and everything else will be paid for out of this other,
The accommodations tax, yes. The accommodations tax funds the entire CDB.
how long has Muskegon County been, this one of 7 counties out of the 83 that does the CVB thing? How long has Muskegon County been a part of that?
1982, I believe.
1982.
Mhm.
How do we
82.
get out of that? What, can we have a work session on that? Thank you.
Well, as long as everybody else agrees.
Okay,
it works.
well, we can bring it up in new business.
Okay. Any other?
I have one more. comment.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I really think that, I really appreciate what they do at the CVB and all of that, and all of the things that you do for the convention center. What I have a problem with is our tax dollars being used to book rooms for for a hotel that belongs to a private individual. And and you and I've gone back and forth on this,
Right.
and I respect your opinion on that. It's just that I have to answer to my residents who want to know, how come we paid somebody to book hotel rooms, but we didn't help somebody in a grocery store? You know, bring people there to buy groceries, or you didn't bring somebody to a car lot to show them all the cars over at Buick. You know, those are things that I have to answer to, and that's why I have a problem with this.
I understand.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Well, some of this makes no sense. to me, but what doesn't make sense is that this is all being funded by these taxes that are added to your room fee. None of this is coming from the general fund. It's all, the money is designed exactly for this. And saying, well, why doesn't it benefit a car dealer? It makes no sense. This thing was set up to put people in hotel rooms. And they can stay in Whitehall, they can stay in Muskegon, they can stay in Norton Shores, wherever they want to stay. But this pot of money helps everybody. Listen, I want to say something else, and I know people are going to disagree with me about this. I know that there's been a lot of talk over the last few years about, you know, what function is the county supposed to do? And, where does it say in the Constitution that we do some of the things that we've been doing? Well, I agree, it's not in there. But sometimes you have to look at a greater good for a community. And
Yeah.
I am not saying that I speak for everybody here. I have given an enormous amount of money, my own personal money, to this county because I'm hoping it benefits everybody, not just me. I'd be a lot richer if I kept that money, but I didn't because I want to see this be a better community. That convention center is something that we all agreed we needed. We didn't bond it, the city bonded it, this tax is being paid for by the people staying in the hotels. And the whole reason that this is how this thing works is we have conventions, they stay in hotels, they don't stay downtown, they don't pay a penny of this tax. This tax only applied to the city of Muskegon, and there's only 2 hotels in the city of Muskegon, and he's paying more tax than every other hotel. So he becomes a little bit less competitive, other than he's near the convention center. So listen, I know it's a difference in philosophies. I'm grateful for what this community has provided to me, and I'm willing to help. And I think we should also be happy that we live in the United States and be willing to try to help the community at large. And I know you're not all going to agree with me, but this is a no-brainer. It's not coming out of the general fund. It makes sense. It's not just for the convention center. And I know that the city, because there weren't people in 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I think the city chipped in some of their ARPA funds to help make up the shortfall because it wasn't anybody's fault that COVID was here. I don't have a problem with this.
The city contributed, I believe, $2.2 million to it.
Because there was no revenue. You can't expect, and every hotel, and one of the comments was, well, why are we doing this to help these private businesses? Well, I hate to tell you this, but every hotel is a private business. County
That's
doesn't
my
own
concern.
I'm sorry.
That's my concern.
Well, but we're not paying for it. The people who stay in the hotels are paying for it.
Commissioner Nash had a comment.
Yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to agree with what Bob is saying is, we're trying to enhance this community. Muskegon has become one of the top tourist cities in Michigan. And so we're doing things to try to help enhance that even more. Just like bathhouses. Yeah, people are filling things, but we want them to fill them more and longer because we've also been known to have a time clock on how things go. And like you say, come August, September, everything shuts down. But we don't want it to end that. That's where the convention center came in at. To not let it end just in September, but to keep it going throughout the year. Maybe not as much, but at least stronger than what it has been in the past. And that helps all of our businesses. And that's the other point, is if they're staying in those hotels, they're visiting somewhere in Muskegon, they're spending money in multiple places all around town. So it's not just the hotels that are benefiting. It's all the businesses that we have in Muskegon County because all the tourists are seeing this as a spot. And I'm just excited because I can't wait to see, once we get approval, what the casino can do to help enhance that even more. I think this is going to be one of the top places in the state for a long period of time. And we're just trying to do what we can to help enhance that. I totally agree with what the chairman is saying.
Any other comments, questions? Okay.
I just have
Yes.
one last comment. So, according to and going in line with what this motion is, and it's not that I agree with it, however, if there is no money in the CVB budget, then what happens? Where would the funds come from? Or what happens to the position?
It would go away if there was no money in the CDB fund, but we
So
don't
you have someone
anticipate
that
that
did work
happening.
and then they're not getting paid.
We had one of the toughest years. Tourism and hospitality was affected most of any industry from COVID. And we survived. And we survived here in Muskegon County because we are in a premier location. Visitors want to come here because of the lakes and the activities, the outdoor activities, the restaurants, everything that's happening here, the energy that's happening here. And, if we can continue that and bring even more people in, we'll have additional taxes to pay for the convention center and other enhancements to Muskegon County. I mean, look at Mosquito Creek. That's out in near the wastewater. That brings in tens of thousands of visitors to Muskegon County to ride those trails. And it was a grassroots effort. The county allowed a grassroots organization, MEMA, the Michigan's Edge Mountain Biking Association, to go in there and create this wonderful facility that is now, one of the premier mountain biking facilities in the area. So those are the type of things that bring visitors in addition to the events. This year, all of our events are coming back in festivals.
I was gonna just comment, because I know in the past you had mentioned a lot of events canceled and now they're coming back, so. Commissioner.
Just a brief thing. I'd just like to thank Bob Skolnick for providing some clarity on this issue and anyway, so I'm voting the same way.
Okay. Any other comments? No? All right, well, let's take this would be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
No,
Commissioner Leering,
No,
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pego.
No,
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Looks like this is targeted at the convention center, and the convention center already has a person who does this job, so I'm gonna say no.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
5 yes, 4 no.
Next, on the item for consideration, CDSP 220309, move to approve the resolution authorizing the Muskegon County Parks Department to apply and accept a Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund grant for the Pioneer Park Bathhouse Development Project.
So moved.
So second.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concern regarding this item? Yes, sir.
I think I've already debated it at length, I thought, in the public comment. But I do have or during the public hearing, how was that public hearing marketed? I mean, how did the notice of public hearing go out?
The notices in the newspaper, it's required to be published in the newspaper, and I believe it was on the county website too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could I have one more comment?
Yes.
When we do a public hearing like that, I guess I'm talking to Mark, when we do a public hearing like that, would you give us notification so that we can let people know that we are having a public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
So just to clarify, it's on the record. Bob, you said the architectural fees and engineering were in this cost.
I will confirm that.
No, that's the way that you said it, this motion, it included that.
As far as I know, yes.
Mr. Homer, would now be an okay time to make a motion to table this?
You mean a motion to postpone?
Yes, that.
Well, I'll leave that up to you. If it's the motion.
I'm going to make a motion to postpone this.
If I could make one comment, to apply for the grant, we have to get a motion.
I made a
and
motion, I
resolution.
think Commissioner Larry seconded.
I
Doesn't
will
that take
second it, second.
doesn't that take precedence? Who's chairing this
We have a
meeting?
motion on the floor currently for this item.
Yeah, but the motion to postpone would then take precedence over.
Okay.
We'll have to vote that up or down.
Yes.
So,
So is there no discussion?
There is debate on a motion to postpone.
okay.
And
Yes.
I do have a question on that. Bob, could I ask you how time sensitive this is?
The grant application is due April 1st.
April 1st.
I'm texting someone right now.
But you're correct. That's why it's on this agenda, to get it done before April 1st,
Okay, because that's. yeah,
before our next board meeting, full board meeting.
well, thank you.
So we need a motion.
Postponement up or down.
Okay,
Yeah, you need a vote.
we need a vote.
Is there
this
any
is
more
it.
discussion you have to ask?
Any other
first?
discussion? Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a vote on the motion to postpone.
So to postpone it means that you're voting no,
Do we need a time?
because we'll miss the deadline.
Do we need
You want to
a,
clarify that?
to postpone to when?
to postpone.
Yeah, it can either be postponed to a date certain or, which is what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Or indefinitely, which is not what I would recommend, because then it just hangs out there with no closure to it.
So your motion to postpone.
To the next community development strategic planning committee, that's where it would most appropriately fall.
Was that support?
This is the meeting.
Yes, it was.
in
Yeah,
April.
Then it will be past the time to apply for the.
Yes, it will.
Okay, so
So, Mr. Chair, I just need to know what a yes vote means.
So yes vote would be to postpone it to the next.
Well, it would have to be to the community development meeting, wouldn't it be? You can't put it into a different meeting.
I think the committees have on occasion postponed things until the next full board meetings too, so, but I'll leave it up to you. You're the one who made the motion, so.
When is the next full board?
The next full board is
Tuesday.
March 15th. The
Oh, it's
next
next week?
community development is April 14th, which is past the deadline.
Well, we need more information. We don't have all the information, so.
What information are you lacking?
Whether the construction.
We can have that by full board.
So
I guess we can postpone it till full board then, I
to the
guess.
full board
That
meeting.
doesn't make any sense. We might as well just move it forward to full board.
Oh, well, then postpone it till never then. That's fine with me.
Let's vote it.
Well, before we do that, I just want to make sure we're clear on what the motion is. because-
My original was for the next community development meeting.
Okay,
That would be the most appropriate.
and there's still support for that.
And that's April 14th.
That's what I understand.
Yes.
Okay,
So a no vote means you don't want to postpone. Okay.
A yes vote means you want to postpone for lack of information. We need more information and more time.
We don't, you do.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying like you
Don't
did.
say we.
Mr. Chair, a
But
yes,
yeah.
a yes means postpone.
Yes means to postpone. A no, not to postpone.
Correct.
Okay,
Maybe means you like ice cream.
all right. Thank you. So we would like. a-
Not all ice cream.
Commissioner Hughes,
No,
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
No,
Commissioner Wilkins,
no,
Commissioner Seer,
No.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
No,
Commissioner Brown.
No. Okay. So now we're back to the original.
Correct.
Item for consideration. Unless there's any other questions, comments, or concern, I'd like a roll call vote for that. On the original.
to
item for
approve the
consideration,
resolution.
To approve the resolution, correct?
Mr. Chair, just so we all understand, a yes vote on it, then we're going ahead with it.
Would be going ahead with the apply to accept the natural
The
resource
full board.
as written.
And by then we'll have an answer to the question about,
That is,
There's no question. It was already stated. It's in this cost.
I didn't hear you.
You already made the statement. It's included.
It's included. Okay, so it's included.
Commissioner Laring,
No,
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
No.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
No.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
yes,
and Commissioner Brown.
yes. Okay. Moves forward. Next, last item for consideration, CDSP 22/3-10. Move to allocate $50,000 in county ARPA funding to the White Lake Chamber of Commerce for impacted industries such as tourism, travel, hospitality, economic impact during the 2020 calendar year.
support.
Second.
The motion is support. All, any questions, comments, or concern? And there's additional information on page 9 of your packet.
So, yeah, I do have a question. So when we had work session, this is for Mark, I think, but thank you, Ben. When we did work sessions on the ARPA money and decided that we weren't going to use this money for anything until after all of our county projects that we spent an extensive amount of time and research that happened. We weren't gonna do that. So please explain to me what our other options are. They're outside of ARPA. I don't like the way that this motion was written. I understand we owe the debt that needs to be paid. I do not agree with this source of funding.
Right, no, you're correct. When we talked about American Rescue Funds, the board, discussed spending money internally. What this is, there's a contract with White Lake, which makes it part of the county, to fill a contract.
I understand.
So for everybody else, that's why that we're bringing this forward. Now, there's two ways it could be made whole, is through Mr. Lucans's office, CVB, like we just talked about, the tax dollars that goes to CVB. Or the other one where it does qualify is American Rescue Fund. So that's why this is bringing forward. Would you want to take this out of American Rescue Fund's bucket of money, or two, under the CVB, or three, not paid? I guess that's an option too, but that's against the contract at that point.
Is there a way to change this motion to have it, the funds come out of the CVB? Or why wasn't there two motions? Or why wasn't there an option?
Well, we're more than welcome to, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why, it's just that it qualified.
Is that for 1 year?
Yes,
So, Mr. Homer, what would you recommend in this case of like a reverbage or a new motion?
Well, the motion's been made and supported, right? So at this point, you would either need a friendly amendment or you would have to amend the motion.
Who motioned and seconded?
Commissioner Nash motioned it and I seconded.
What was that, Susan?
Commissioner Nash made the motion and I say, is that what
That's
you have?
correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
So this was not paid in the past, which was part of the contract.
2020 is when COVID.
Could I have can I make a comment or are we still?
Yes, you go ahead.
You know, this is money that we would normally have paid to them. And I think one of the reasons that we didn't pay it is because of the pandemic and everything. And that's one reason we got the ARPA funds. So I do believe that fits right into this. So,
Thank you. Any other comment? Yes.
How many Chamber of Commerces are there in Muskegon County?
There are two.
Oh, Whitehall and,
Right.
yeah, right, sorry.
This one here and the one downtown. Chamber.
Are we paying both of them?
Bobby, explain the relationship with the local one.
Yes, there's a relationship with the White Lake Chamber of Commerce to provide operations of the North County, what's called the North County Visitor Center. And that's also a chamber office. They provide visitor information. Amy and her staff does.
It's like a satellite office.
Yes.
yeah.
Commissioner Pagel.
Where is that contract? I haven't seen that contract.
We can provide the contract. It's not included in the packet. If you like a copy of it. Bobby.
How long is that been?
Amy, you have to help me here. It's been years.
Do you want me to look? No.
Please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Amy Van Loon, I'm the Executive Director of the White Lake Area Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And to answer your question, Commissioner Pago, that contract has been in place for 5 years. It is
5
a
years.
5-year life and has been in existence since 2017.
It's a 5-year contract and it's been existing since 2017.
So
So it's renewable every 5 years, is that?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll get a copy. of the
And again, I
contract.
just want to reiterate, I understand we have a debt. I'm not in agreement with going outside of what we already decided as a consensus. So that's my thing. I'd like to see it come out of the CVB instead and whatever, if we need to make that motion or how we do that. But
My only thing about that, Commissioner Pagel, is if we take it out of the CVB, then we're gonna end up taking general funds to replace it. So not ARPA funds. We'll take it right out of the general fund to replace the funds in the CVB I believe it's how that will have to work.
No, I mean, the CVB is an enterprise fund again, unless for some reason they spend more than they get coming in. We had to subsidize it. That's the case, but we haven't subsidized CVB for quite some time.
Okay, then I technically don't have a problem.
You know, I am somewhat a little bit concerned. Because this usually comes out of ATAC, correct?
Correct.
And so why are we not just paying it out of ATAC? I know they've had a reduction, but I don't see why we're doing that, because we are deviating. And I got a feeling that I guess I'm worried about it opening up a can of worms. Because we did say that we want to not do specifics. And if we do this, then we have to do it for everybody else too. And so I guess that's my only concern, but I do want to make sure the chamber is taken
Yeah, me
care of.
too.
Because we've always taken care of that
Absolutely.
throughout the years, but I'm just wondering why we're not just doing it
That's a
through
good
our
point.
normal ATAC.
Well, the only reason this one is because, and we said we opened the can of worms, we had a discussion internally for quite some time about that. And the other ones who requested money, we don't have contracts with. This is of all the individuals who asked money for, this is the only one that we actually have a contract that was in place before COVID.
If I may, commissioners,
Yes.
excuse me, the,
You forgot, didn't you, Bob?
I hate that when that happens.
You had a birthday yesterday?
The main reason we were talking about this and we put it on the agenda like it is because the books for 2020 have been closed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why the request was made through the ARPA.
So, Angie, would you want to explain how, based on what Bob just said, Angie, I'm assuming we would just make a transfer out of his dollars in his account to pay this bill from 2020.
If we paid it from accommodations tax from CBB, you mean? Yeah, it would just increase what we paid for this fiscal year.
So we can do that then, do that as a separate motion.
Or
It's part of,
Mr. Nash, you have to make a friendly amendment. You know,
I would make that from the amendment.
Thank
I'll-
you.
yeah,
Would you
I'm gonna
repeat
support
the
that.
friendly amendment?
Thank you.
No,
Oh.
Mark will.
Okay.
What?
The friendly amendment, instead of paying it out of the American Rescue Funds, it comes out of the
And
HX.
Susie was okay with that. so
Oh, okay.
I will vote yes for that.
okay, so we're good. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
If I could make one more comment, I just spoke with Amy and Rich Houdeman, who's the president of the chamber there, and they prefer not to take it out of the ATAC.
Well, I think,
Well, he had his hand up, sorry.
If they want their money, then why?
I think it, personally, I think it should come out of the ARPA money because really that was a payment for the economic impact of COVID. And actually, and the ATAC fund was hurt by COVID and didn't get a penny. So they just took the hit for it. And now you're asking them to pay the money they didn't pay because they didn't have it to pay, or they, would have really hurt them. And I think it should come out of the ARPA money myself.
Yeah.
They already accepted the friendly amendment.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that. I agree with Susie's logic on this, that, because we didn't have as many funds go into the CBB, APEC, whatever. And this is an appropriate use for ARPA money. And that was your preference, correct? Yeah.
So,
So we have a motion and a friendly. with
motion and
friendly.
friendly, yeah, so.
The friendly amendment.
We're gonna have to restate it.
So we would have to vote that down and
It's,
then.
no,
revote.
the amendment was made, so it'd be allocate $50,000 from ATAC to the White Lake Chamber of Commerce. That's the only change that it would be.
But we can vote that down and then.
You can, I'm just
Substitute,
saying they
yeah.
accepted the friendly amendment.
I'm gonna look at our attorney.
So, yeah, so the motion that is pending is the original as amended by the friendly amendment to pay it out of
ATAC.
ATAC. Okay, yes, that is what's. on
I know.
ATEC is CBB.
Now I'm so confused.
Wait a minute. What's
Yeah.
ATEC?
That's CBD, like you're
Yes.
saying.
Accommodations tax
Accommodations.
account.
Which is reduced because of.
Mr. Mr.
if
Chair,
if
so
we-
a no vote on this would be to defeat the amendment.
Right.
No.
No, this is a vote on the
Defeat the whole thing.
The motion altogether.
Then we'd have to redo it without the amendment.
But you could, you wouldn't have to.
The
but you
motion
could.
has been friendly amended. We didn't have to vote. on it.
Correct.
So the motion is as, so you'd have to vote it down. And it would defeat the whole thing.
So a yes vote would,
Yes means they're gonna get their $50,000 out of ATAC.
But we could pay ourselves back. to the hard work.
Right, later on. So
Out of the ARPA money?
Right. Yeah. We did that, the reason I say that is because we did that with the courts. And we also did that with the, Matt, help me out here, the
Call the
dishwasher for
question.
the jail.
Let him finish.
so right now, we have a motion and a friendly
Yes.
amendment to use the tax, excuse me?
The ATAC.
Commissioner Pego,
This is with the friendly amendment to pay the $50,000 out of ATAC. Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
No, I'm gonna pass it forward.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leering,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
I don't like the way this is happening.
We can pay it back later.
did you vote? I'm sorry,
I said yes.
I couldn't read. That's all right. Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay. So that moves forward. Okay, thank you. Appreciate everyone's help. Next item on unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business to come to this committee?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Larry.
Well, I need a history lesson, I think. So I distinctly remember sitting on this board passing an $18 million bond initiative for the convention center. You're telling me the city bonded it now.
The city bonded it. I had to recall back about I think the total. Hey, Bob, do you know the exact amount of the bond that was taken?
It was 18.2 maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 18 million.
Okay, so that dollar amount is correct. You're saying, yes, the city bonded it.
But we passed, this board, or the previous board passed a bond initiative to use the county's bonding authority to bond the convention center. So how did that transpire that the city bonded it, not the county?
I don't recall that. We'll definitely go back and look at that, but I do recall that we would agree to use these ATAC and PA $59 to help pay that bond. That might have been the resolution.
Yes.
Right.
The city entered, or the county and the city
Yeah.
entered into a
That was
contract
right.
wherein the county accommodations tax and PA 59 funds would go to pay for the bond issue from the city. So in effect, we were using that funding and paying the city the annual amount to retire those bonds.
So, and we're still
Well,
doing
wait.
that on.
Yes. Wait, so when this debate came up, I think I was the only no vote to this convention center thing. The convention center, we were used because, and I remember this debate, we had a lower bonding or a lower, they got a
Interest rate, yep.
we could get a lower interest rate if the county bonded the convention center. And now you're telling me we didn't bond it?
Yeah, I'm not sure we would have got a lower interest rate. Their rating, I think, is equal or better to ours. So I have to go back and look at it again.
Can we get the specifics by,
It was like in May and July of 2019, if I remember correctly, somewhere in there. wasn't it?
or email?
When all that happened.
Commissioner Hughes, I excuse myself for a second. Could you please take over as vice chair?
Certainly. Well, maybe adjourn.
No, we gotta close that.
I love it. We're going into closed session, so we.
Yeah.
We're not.
Wow.
going-
Wait a minute, Unfinished
Some of us
business.
need a break.
Well, then get up. if you-
Well, there's a closed
We're
session.
gonna take a break in just a minute. And is there any other unfinished business?
No, not unfinished. I agree with.
How about new business?
Yes, new business. Mark and Mike, how do we go about a work session to not be one of those one out of the 7 counties of the 83 in Michigan to have the CVB thing underneath us?
Well, I suspect that you could make a motion to set a work session.
I will make a motion to set a work session for help me with verbiage
I suppose to discuss the convention bureau.
to discuss the convention bureau.
Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Yes,
Because
I'll
there's
second
something,
convention and
that.
visitors bureau.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a second.
there's something else. going on
Okay.
here.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a second. Okay, Commissioner Larry. Any,
Just a work session.
yeah, just
Talk about
to ask for work session. Any other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same.
No,
No.
That's 3.
That motion carries.
Roll call.
wait a
please.
minute, you can't just say 3, gotta have a roll call.
She
Okay.
said, no, there's no money involved. She said
Roll
all in
call.
favor,
There's
aye.
money.
Roll call. We
Who's
wanna
up
see
you
who
to
voted how.
Say how many votes there were.
I'm the chairman.
Requested a roll call, please.
The vote was taken.
Madam Chair.
Yes, a member has requested a roll call. so you
After
can
it's already voted.
So you can take a roll call, yes, but you clarify the vote.
To clarify the vote, Kathy, could I please have a roll call?
Chairman Skolnick,
No.
Commissioner Wilkins,
No.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
No.
Vice Chair Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leering,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
and we have Commissioner Brown as absent. at the moment.
That motion fails. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, any final board comments?
I cannot even fathom how any elected member of this board that's in charge of taxpayer funds wouldn't want to have a work session to discuss something.
Well,
Unbelievable.
Some of us understand.
some of us are unbelievable. on this one.
No other final board comments? I would-
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a
I
motion
know
in
it's
a
not.
closed session to pursuant to MCL 15-268B to consider the purchase or lease of real property.
So moved.
That was a motion.
That was a motion, that was a second.
And that was a second. Any comments? Could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leering,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
and Chair Skolnick.
Yes.
And that motion carries. We will go into a closed session.
I think they need a 5-minute break.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we're all going to take a 5-minute break.